Hello everyone, I am back, James Williams, Director of Programmes with Meth. No Superman-esque jacket change this time round, and let's get straight into it because we've only got 15 minutes left this session. I'd like to welcome Nassia Skoulikariti to the show, because it is a show. Hey Nassia, hi.
Hey James, how are you?
Fantastic. Now I am a fan of keeping things simple, and we were thinking about a title. What title should we use for this session? Do you know what? IoT in Brazil, challenges and opportunities. That works for me.
It does, and it fits very well with everything that's been discussed both yesterday and today, because we can't talk about telco, we can't talk about SMS, we can't talk about digitalization or being online these days without touching a little bit upon IoT, the Internet of Things.
Fantastic. Now, Nassia, I first met you a decade ago, and lots of people around and about know me from the messaging world. People started calling me Mr. Connectivity. Some people erroneously call me Mr. Messaging, which mixes me up with an aggregator in Malta. But actually, you were 50% of the reason why I got into the whole world of A2P SMS, because you interviewed me for a role 10 years ago. So this is the first time we're ever together on stage, you can say. So
I know.
It's your fault.
Hot seat. I'll take a full responsibility for the outcome then too.
There we go. So let's hear about yourself, your background very quickly, and Apiro Data, what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, you preambled already that I've been in the telco industry for a while, both in SMS and voice, for, I would say, a good part of 25 years. And since the last 5 years or so, I transitioned over to the Internet of Things, starting my own company, Apiro Data, which is an end-to-end IoT services and platform company where we enable organizations and telcos in particular to get started with their IoT journey and connected product journey by collecting the data, integrating their devices, visualizing, and using that data to provide value both internally within the organization and also to their customers.
Fantastic. So we're here to talk about Brazil. So can you just give us a quick helicopter overview of what's going on with IoT? Well, IoT in Brazil. And first of all, actually, do you know what? I'm assuming too much here. What is IoT and how can it actually benefit? How can IoT benefit organizations of all sizes? Because you heard me talking before with the Cineverse session mentioning 99% of businesses are small and medium sized. So how can something like IoT benefit them?
Well, on its simplest form, IoT enables any device, any machine to become smart by the use of sensors. So we're talking, most people will understand IoT or the Internet of Things on its original form, which is machine to machine. And it flows very well when we're talking about, we know A2P, we know P2P, then we know machine to machine. So IoT it's one more thing, because from machine to machine, you have one machine, one smart machine connecting without human intervention to another machine. With the IoT, the Internet of Things, you've got multiple machines that could be connecting without human intervention to multiple other machines or to another machine, generating data, collecting data, so we can use then that data to create innovation within the organization, reduce the costs, increase the revenue, make the whole operations more effective and efficient in terms of productivity. It gives us insight of what's happening both internally, because it's a dual play, I would say, for most companies. It's the internal game when it comes to IoT and connecting and creating this visibility within the organization, and the external play when it comes to creating the products afterwards. But you start with internally, you fix that, you get visibility, and then you use it for innovation to create, connected products externally. As you can see and can understand, that this is it has many different use cases, and it is my personal belief that it will touch every single company, every single organization, and every single person. We are already connected. We're getting more connected as time goes by, and as we've seen, and Pat mentioned on the previous session, that COVID accelerated digital transformation, IoT being one of the segments of digital transformation that organizations are looking into. So being more connected, we cannot escape it. So let's make sure that companies, individuals, understand how to get there more efficiently and avoid all the challenges and pitfalls, because it's not an easy. It's a very vast ecosystem. It's extremely complex because it's also siloed. And, and when you throw security on top of it, and I'm only going to touch slightly because it's a very big conversation when we're talking about security and IoT, it could be, you know, mayhem if you don't know where to start and where to go.
Okay, so no, that's very comprehensive and very good. But the key takeaway for me from that is connectivity. And again, another shameless plug for a MEF working group, the Mobile IoT working group. And I know the connectivity piece plays such a huge role in the work they do, and of course the industry. And it's absolutely key. Now we'll come back to that because 5G in particular is having a real role to play. But let's talk Brazil specific. How has Brazil done? What are they doing to embrace IoT? And indeed, is the government behind it? Because regulation, government needs to be behind it. And is that the case in Brazil?
Well, it's a very good reason why, you know, Brazil being the largest, I would say, country in the region, it is a spotlight in the IoT world for many different reasons. And the main one of them being that about a year ago, the government passed regulation to aid organizations and companies with tax cuts to get into or deploy IoT services. So that tells me that the country and the regulators are very well aware of both the economical and the social impact that these technologies, and I'm not saying IoT is not a technology, it's a conglomeration of many technologies, it's an umbrella, that these technologies will affect and will have a big impact in the future. So the country itself is trying to preamble and help organizations so they can grab the market share and create these services. So it's no surprise. The regulation really helps. But if I may, I would like to share a couple statistics, and also want to warn our listeners that when we're talking about statistics, especially around IoT, there is a big hype. So listen to them with a grain of salt, as they say, because they're not 100%, but it will paint a picture of where they are and where they're going in the future. So I jotted down some information from Statista that back in, I would say 2 years ago, in 2019, the value of the Internet of Things in the Brazilian market was $2.21 billion US dollars. Now, they forecasted at that time that it will grow by the end of this year to 3.29, so say 3.3 billion US dollars. Now, to put this into context, let's talk a little bit about another large, market, especially in the telco and IT in the region, which is Mexico, right? So for the same period that we talked about Brazil, it is expected to see that the market in Mexico will grow from 1.93 billion to 3.04 billion US dollars. So it's lower than Brazil. Okay, but by a little bit, but it's still lower. So it's a huge market for the region. And then I'm going to add a little bit, an additional layer to this to tell you that if we look at the whole analysis of and the expectations, the whole IoT market, IoT analytics, they're forecasting a 5.5 billion connected IoT devices by 2025, right? So, and they revised, this recently to 30. That's huge.
It's huge.
It went from
No, it's big.
4.5 to 30. I mean, we know that every household or every individual will have at least 8 connected devices. So if each one of the people in a global environment will have 8 connected devices, I'm not going to tell you how many I've got at the moment. I am a little bit upset.
Look, if you haven't got any, we're in trouble.
But
there you go. No, I get that. So, no, I know personally that in 2019, actually, the country, as part of their digital transformation plan, the president came out and said IoT is actually one of the key pillars. So the initial plan was put together in 2018, was launched in 2019. And IoT is really, really big. And the Ministry for Science, Technology and Innovation actually has built up a really big innovation center. And again, I've just been raiding the internet 103 miles from Sao Paulo in a place called Sorocaba, city of Sorocaba. So IoT is really big. It's got some real importance in Brazil, and people are really starting to wake up to the opportunity and the fact that the market in Brazil is bigger than the A2P SMS market that you and I have, and indeed Pat before and many others over the past 2 days have talked about. That tells me what I need to know. So IoT is fast growing, and we need to close the session very, very soon. But quickly, 5G and indeed the fact that SIM cards will soon, reality will not be physical. Yeah. All those two things feeding into IoT.
Oh, absolutely, and it's helping grow the whole market and the ecosystem. 5G is imperative for mission critical, I would say, services and operations. We're talking about healthcare here, we're talking about manufacturing, we're talking about autonomous vehicles. So for those type of applications, 5G is key, and it will continue to grow. Before we close, I think it's important to also show or mention that the key areas of growth on IoT in Brazil, outside connectivity, because I've been talking a lot with regional players, and connectivity is currently the #1 way of companies, especially either technology companies or telco companies, getting into the play by providing connectivity for the devices, for remote monitoring, and also around logistics. But the key areas that I envision that they will be growing in terms of what kind of services that you're looking, people should be considering to unlock the potential around IoT. Of course, smart cities, because that will become, with everything that's been happening with COVID, we need to know what is happening around us. Healthcare, big, it's key for similar reasons. Manufacturing, obviously, because of remote monitoring and being able to remote access and control what is happening within an operation. I mentioned briefly logistics. That will continue to grow. It's already there, and it's a big play around, tracking and tracing and everything that goes along. But also pay attention to agriculture, because IoT in agriculture, you keep growing, and we'll see it also getting embedded in a more energy efficient systems.
I know, so it's something totally different, but I came across actually a company a couple of days ago with small robots in agriculture as well. So IoT robots, people wouldn't think about it, but it's coming in. Nassia, it's been a real pleasure having you with us today. And I think one final closing remark from myself personally is, if you are a mobile operator, because I've seen this myself, if you're a mobile operator and you've got an IoT division, just be very careful who all your SIM cards go to, because we saw the SMS phishing session before. And I've seen personally that if control is not levied on who exactly the SIM cards are going to, some of those may find themselves in SIM farms. I've seen that personally. So there needs to be controls on the IoT side of things with regards to what's going on too, because that feeds into, it all feeds in together, doesn't it? Into
absolutely.
Nassia, thank you so much. Lovely having you on the show. And
thank you, James.
All the best, everyone, and thank you for listening and watching. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.